All right, now for our demo. I mentioned a while ago that we are going to have our walkway project that we used last time. Supposedly we are going to make some upgrades on it, but I've just realized that we are actually using a servo motor in which we cannot appreciate the some of the concepts that we are going to introduce here, or we're going to visualize here. So instead, let's try this one. Okay, we have right. Right, well, try to simulate a DC motor controlled by an ultrasonic sensor. So for this one, as you can see, whenever as long as we okay, let me zoom in. As long as we have a distance of let me see the limit. All right. I think 120. Okay. So the set point. So as long as we don't um as long as we detect a distance of not less than 120, we expect to have, right, first, sorry, 120, right, 60, it's actually 60, right? As long as we don't have uh, distance of less than 60, we can expect the motor will continue to work, or that means the wheels will continue to turn, right? So as you can see, it's less than 60. That's why we have a reading of 0 RPM. And here in our monitoring side, um, we don't have any output. But this system actually employs a PI controller. P stands for proportional, I stands for integral. So supposedly it should be a PID, but upon checking, um, in this example, PI is a more practical option compared to PID. Okay. Um, Now, let's try to make it work. Make it start running. As you can see, it has started running. We have this what they call this speed. Okay, angular velocity of about 1,300 plus, more or less, RPM. Right, and as you can see, when we turned on, it gradually increased. Okay, um, the speed is controlled by our control parameters, or PI parameters for um, our controller. But observe that the moment we stop, the moment it encounters an obstacle, so it suddenly went down. Okay, so this is when we are designing our robots, so this could be our principle as well. When we are turning on, it's in most cases it would be better to make it gradual, like this. This one is a gradual shift. But whenever we have to stop, like we push, or we hit the brake of our vehicle, it should stop immediately, right? So as you can see, this is gradual, this is immediate, right? Again, so gradual, immediate, gradual, and then immediate. So observe the RPM, gradual, and then immediate. So again, that this example is something that demonstrates the power of our controller. Okay, we don't just turn the motor on or off. We can actually control how it behaves. Okay, I'll try to share this Tinkercad code. Okay, I just showed a copy so that I can have my original copy protected, right? So that's for this demonstration. Before I we go to the walkway and we have another circuit for walkway and the blink one. I'd like to insert this one. We have the Colab. As mentioned earlier, we have been using Colab for the past two webinar workshops wherein we were using Python for some data visualization and analysis. I'd like to share it also here that we can we can actually use Google Colab to simulate our robotics project. Okay, so here I have four examples. First one, the manipulation robot version one, wherein we are dealing with the physics or more on the statics of the robotic arm. Meaning we are checking if the robot arm can handle a certain load depending on its configuration. So we can check if it is meant to handle this much of mass, um, whether it can withstand, it can maintain its balance or not, right? So in Google Colab, by the way, I'm going to share this Google Colab notebook as well. Um, right after the end of our FB Live, right? So um, one good thing about Google Colab, in case you haven't attended last time, or it's your first time to encounter Google Colab, um, one good thing is it doesn't require you to install anything, okay? Because everything is online or over the cloud. So I can run Python code without installing anything on my device. Okay, so for this one, we're going to import some libraries. We have NumPy for numerical computations, Matplotlib for the visualizations, and IP widgets for some UI elements. Okay, so for during your first run, it sometimes take a while as it tries to establish a runtime or a connection with the runtime. Okay, and once you see this check button, that means it's okay, and we can proceed with the others. Okay, so check this one shows our functions. So we create certain function for each literal function of our robotic arm. Okay, like computation of the positions. Okay, so as you can see, we have some equations representing um our kinematics. Okay. Also, we have the function compute torque. Um, and then we have, okay, we're going to run this one also. This is another function for the simulation part. Okay, and this last part is for our interactive elements like this. Okay, so now we have this output. Okay, I'll try to um, uh, full screen, right? I Okay. Right. So this is our output, and I'll zoom in out. No, I cannot zoom out. Right. As you can see, we have this representation of our robotic arm. This is our base. This is our first joint, and this is our end effector. Okay. So at the base, we have our first joint. Here, uh, assuming this is the shoulder. Okay, the base is the shoulder is at the base, and this is let's say the elbow. So we have a shoulder and an elbow, and this part, the end effector, is our arm. I mean the hand itself. Okay, so as you can see, it's currently holding a certain mass. It is 1 kilogram, I think, right? So we can change that mass and see if it has a tendency to rotate or not. So right now, it has a tendency to rotate because we have a torque. Okay, so in physics, it must be zero. So let's try to minimize this one. As you can see, less mass means less torque. Okay. So very small only. Right. So in this case, this robot is not so um uh applicable in lifting heavy objects. So that's why we have to redesign this one. Maybe let's have shorter links. Okay. And then we can limit also our angles. So right now, angle one is for the shoulder. Angle two is for the elbow. Okay. So as you can see, the color blue. Okay. We adjust the angle. All right. So, okay. I think the problem with the code is it has to very high mass. Um, okay. So it's quite kinda um um realistic, too realistic, right? So we can never achieve a zero torque. So whenever, just remember, whenever we have torque, there's a tendency to rotate, and meaning intentional rotate. So it can fall down. Okay, it can be out of balance. Okay, so let's try. Alright. Okay, so here we can minimize the mass, we can minimize the length, and we can limit the possible angles that our robot can work on. So that's a way to um that's a way to, what do you call that? To make sure or to ensure the static equilibrium in this example of a robotic arm. Of course, there are many ways that you can improve this. Um, in the meantime, this is just to show the concept of equilibrium. Okay, so we don't just when we have a robotic arm project, we one of the first things that we should watch out for is how much load is it intended to carry or lift, right? So in this case, even if we have a 0.05 kilograms of mass, we still have some a bit of torque. Okay, we can never have I'm not sure if can we have a very low torque, right? So let's say if we have here, oh, okay, it's not really okay. I think this is the lowest torque for the shoulder, and for the what do you call this? For the elbow, oh, I think that's the lowest one. Right. So that's it for this part. Next part we have also on a manipulation robot, but this time it demonstrates forward and inverse kinematics. So forward kinematics means we it's us who dictate where should our end effector be. Okay, so whenever you want to place this is our end effector. If you want to locate it here, you dictate what should be the coordinates, and then the other joints, the joints of the arm will follow. I know, no, that's inverse, sorry. The forward kinematics, we decide what should be the coordinates of our joints, and then the end effector will follow. Okay. While in inverse kinematics, IK, we just choose the target. It's here. we just to choose the target x and y coordinates for our end effector, and then the joints will follow. Okay, so let's demonstrate this one. Just like in the previous example, we can adjust theta 1 and theta 2. That's actually for forward kinematics because our end effector only follows our the the positioning that we assign for our joints, joint 1 and joint 2. Okay, while okay, we can adjust, right? As you can see, the one that we are adjusting is the angle for each joint, right? While for inverse kinematics, we can directly assign just like this one. I want it to be positioned in 1 1, so I assign 1 1 here. So one to the right and one upward. The the joints will adjust themselves so that the end effector will be located at that exact point. So another thing, if I have it at 2 1, I've okay, 2 for the x and 1 for the y, you'll see it automatically adjusts the joints of the joint angles. Okay, so this is 1, 2, so 2, and then unit 1. Right? I hope you can still follow. This is quite mathematical, but again, this is just bonus. Okay, that's forward and inverse kinematics. The next one is the mobile robot. So here we are showing the concept of differential drive. Okay, we have this code, and all right, so we have this simulation. It only shows that what happens when we have different or the same left and right velocity. So left wheel velocity and right wheel velocity. So in this case, they have the same, they are equal. So if I run the mobile robot for some time, okay, let's say for this time or around here, then if I plot this, this will be the motion of our mobile robot. So straight line. Okay, so equal velocities for left and right wheels, the robot will go straight forward. But if, as you can see, there's an equal left and right velocity, then if we run for some time like this one, then you'll see, okay, it's no longer a straight path. Okay, same thing here. If this one is less than the right wheel, and if I run for a long time, the longest time here possible, then you'll see this is our you see that it has only run a very short distance because uh all right, because of its combination of the left and right wheels. Okay, let's try to have an almost equal um pair of velocities, and then let's have it very long. Okay, so this one, okay, it's almost equal, but as you can see, there's still a curve because it's not exactly equal. Okay, and the last one, this is exactly equal, I think. Um, and let's see. All right, so this is straight line. So that's the main principle of differential drive of a robot. Whenever we want it to turn left or right, we just basically um, adjust the left and right velocities. All right, velocities of the wheel, right, or the RPM, like what I've shown earlier in our Tinkercad demo. Okay. And lastly, we have this mobile robot 2 regarding path planning and dynamics. This is not yet AI, but without AI, we can actually have some kind of decision making for our robot, especially in in the aspect of locomotion and navigation. So we have this example, right? So this is our mobile robot, and this is our target destination. So the robot must find its way towards that um, towards that destination. So as you can see, there are a lot of obstacles, and our robots must have to go through this path. Okay, the robot must reach its destination in as little time as possible. The simulation also shows the energy used for the navigation. Okay, so let's run this one. Okay, for this one, we are actually using the A star algorithm. Okay, this is not yet an AI model. So using plain A star algorithm, we have these possibilities. Okay, the robot will explore all these points in time until it reaches its destination. So, according to our calculations, for the total distance traveled is 39, and from the two, I think, joules of kinetic energy, um, we need 3.9 of work, 3.9 joules of work, um, to achieve the goal, which is to reach this destination, right? That's why, as you can see, we only have two, but we need 3.9. That's why if we do this, we have negative energy. So meaning, it's not possible. Okay, we can never reach the destination if these are our parameters and we use the A star algorithm. Now we try to use another algorithm. We have the Dijkstra, and let's see if it does any better. Okay, it actually did. It was worse, right? But it explored all the possibilities. But good thing the robot was able to show to. There's a chance that the robot will be able to find the shortest path because in the extra algorithm, the object is always trying to find the shortest path. Okay. Sorry. So this one shows only the shortest path possible. Still, just like in the previous example, previous algorithm, we lack 1.9 joules of energy to execute the task. But if we use BFS, I guess the same. Okay, the same. If we use greedy algorithm, so as you can see, this one is um okay. This is more efficient, but as you can see, it requires more energy. Okay, as it will try all the possible dots here. Okay, so still not good. But let's try to change the map. All right. So for this map, let's say we go to A plus. All right. So our A star, I mean, we have still have 1.9. Dijkstra, we have 1.9 also, BFS 1.9, and um, the greedy algorithm, which is worse, 0.1, right? So I guess uh, the environment matters. All right, so we can change the friction in the environment, or maybe change the wheels to make it respond better to friction. So let's see if we have more friction. I guess more. Okay, it get worse, right? And if we increase our velocity, 7.5, and all right. So this one, if we have more velocity, we can actually um save more. Okay. So we from 28.12 kinetic energy, uh, we have a remaining energy of 19.92. Okay, so let's try A star. Okay, we have more savings with A star. How about Dijkstra? Okay, for Dijkstra, we have also 20 point something, right? So I guess this is just an overview of our um, manipulation and mobile robots simulation in Colab, right? And for the third part of this demo, we instead of doing another demonstration for connecting our Blink circuit to, I mean, our Walkme circuit to Blink dashboard. Um, let's have this demo instead from that we used during our January webinar workshop. Okay, it's the one presented by my colleague, um, Jan Elfo. Okay, so I'm turning you over to this demo.